Welcome to the Animation Deliberation Podcast, the podcast where we take action animation and cartoons seriously, but not too seriously. On our first live episode here, we are covering M.O.D.O.K's first episode, and I have a couple of great guests with me, Matthew Carroll of the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, as well as Brian V. Klein, and we are excited to dive into this episode. Sing along if you know the words. A 1, 2, 3, it's time for Animation Deliberation. A conversation and a celebration of our favorite action animated series. Yeah. All right. Well, welcome in everybody. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Animation Deliberation. I am your host, J. Scotty St. Clair. And as I mentioned, I'm super excited for this very first live episode of Animation Deliberation. I've got Matthew Carroll and Brian V. Klein here to discuss M.O.D.O.K. Welcome, guys. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Yeah. For myself, I was super excited for the series from day one, the first little snippets of information that we got. But, you know, I obviously have a vested interest in animation to begin with, but I'd be really excited to get your guys' initial impressions on this pretty crazy series.
It was a weird experience for me.
Okay.
Because I tend to not watch comedy, like pure comedy. I like things that have like comedy in them. I like comedy, but I guess I just like, for some reason, shows with more storyline and overarching things, they drive me forward. They make me continue watching, which is why I like my comedy sort of sprinkled in with like a good overarching story. And this had that robot chicken thing, which feels like what the like YouTube videos that I put on and just like get drunk and watch or whatever. You know, it's like, it's not
Sure.
my normal, but this was like trying to not really thoughtfully, but just enjoy a new show. And it has an overarching plot, it seems, which is cool. But every scene was like one of those sketches where nothing matters, but then juxtaposed onto this like larger series. I don't know. I found it very interesting. And it kind of messed me up. I was like trying to follow it, but also like I just laughed a lot. Like it kept taking me out of myself, and I liked that. I liked it a lot.
Definitely.
Oh, I agree. It was having a little bit more backstory and knowing of M.O.D.O.K. I loved the satirical kind of take that they had on it, and the robot chicken vibe was, you know, expected, and I think it worked well for what they were doing here. There is the overarching, the understory, like the main plot of it, but in between that, like Matt was saying, just the little skits that they got from point A to point B to point C were just hysterical, and I'm sure we'll dig deep into that. So.
Yeah. The robot chicken comparisons are pretty apt. You know, that's a show that's like leans fully into the absurdity, but I really do like what you bring up, Matt. Like there is obviously that absurdity, but it's driven by this emotional through line, and it seems like there's actually going to be something connecting us to this pretty crazy character. But even with like the opening scene, we open with like a young George Tarleton crying, and it kind of helps to humanize this incredibly egotistical creature like going forward.
Clearly wanting to make him a sympathetic protagonist in some way, at least well enough so that you can follow him and not just be out immediately. Because I don't know, it's like it's that weird balance of like, does nothing matter or do things matter? And like the thing I liked a lot, and I was debating bringing this up because I'll just say this: he was a real jerk to his wife throughout the entire thing. And I was kind of nervous that the show was going to be so nothing matters, that she was just going to be like the steady wife character in the background making social media moves the whole series. And then he was, you know, not going to do things to earn her love. You know what I mean? And then he did a very big violation in taking over her body in a moment that was important to her. And then like, I was like, okay, now they're out to dinner. But then the divorce kind of threw me, and I was like, oh, they are going to let things matter. And I love that. I love it a lot.
Yeah. There's consequences.
Yeah. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you bring that up. I had a little bit of trepidation myself, especially with the Jodie, his wife, Jodie Tarleton, that character. To compare it to another adult animated series, I thought it was going to go the way of Family Guy a little bit, where you obviously have Peter Griffin being this very boorish and offensive character, but we still like him, but he constantly treats Lois and the daughter Meg, they're punching bags, for lack of a better term. But yeah, I really appreciate the fact that there was consequences and some finality to that major, basically betrayal of her trust, and just a huge line to cross there.
Yeah.
But it was kind of planted earlier on in the episode. I remember when he said, like, if there is aim, M.O.D.O.K is aim is M.O.D.O.K. If there's none, what am I? And she's like, if that's true, we might need to have a pretty serious conversation about us. And then, of course, there's a gag right after that, so you don't dwell on it too much. But
they plant that seed, especially because when she said that maybe I could be like the breadwinner, and he said that, and then they planted it, and then they cut to a gag. So it's sort of like it's in your brain, but it's now look at this funny.
Yeah. So I was glad that was there, so I don't have like a huge problem. Because for a minute I thought I was gonna have a problem with the series. I'm like, because like especially anyway. Let's talk about the funny things. Sorry, there's like there were things he did to her that I was like, that's very offensive. Yeah. And like the fact that he like scrolled through his brain to remember times she might have given him consent to do the thing he wants to do. I was like, ooh, that's not a good look. That's real bad. That's not okay at all.
Yeah, you knew it wasn't going to a good place there, but that did get one of like the funniest parts of the episode for me when you were hearing like Jodie and these past memories and whatnot. It always ties back to bangs, and the one that really got me is, I'm pregnant with bangs.
Yeah, I loved it. There were multiple lines in this entire episode that just made me like guffaw, like really laugh hard sitting here at my desk, and like the boot missing and an Iron Man just going uh-oh, like is so funny and so like rooted in the world and like real. Like, what if Iron Man lost a boot? That's hilarious.
And actually, to go back to the funny part, I didn't even notice this until right when the thing ended. The first thing I saw when the credits rolled, I think it was like the executive producer or whatever, Seth Green and Matthew Senreich are credited. And it's actually Stupid Monkey, which is the Robot Chicken production studio, is the one that created this. So the ties to Robot Chicken are actually very much intended, because the guys that did this as well. So
that's cool. Oh, yeah. I did not know that, but I kind of would have assumed it, honestly. If I was like, this is definitely that team, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I think Jay Scotty agreed with me. There was this old show on Adult Swim, another stop motion animation show called Moral Oral,
right?
And it had that same type of like the character design where it was more, because Robot Chicken pretty much just takes like action figures and puts like the paper mouths on them. This one was fully fleshed out characters, and it had more of that design. I think those were all, a general way that shows like this are designed anyway.
Well, and then, I mean, Robot Chicken initially is drawing a lot of inspiration from the classic, like, Rankin and Bass, like, stop motion animated series from like, the holidays and whatnot. Like, I think probably most people have seen one of those, if not, like, The Little Drummer Boy or
Rudolph,
or
Gumby, or any stop motion animation thing. This is very much in that tradition, and it's just it's funny that they're, I don't know, that's a really hard way to make television. It's
painstaking. Yeah.
Is this actually done old style, or are they? I'm guessing they're using elements of CGI to enhance it, probably.
So I do believe it's entirely stop motion at the end of the day, but they're definitely leaning on some technology in terms of like how they're planning the shots and whatnot, because I was privy to some behind the scenes stuff where you actually saw Patton Oswalt got into like a full M.O.D.O.K like get up and was like walking around a set and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of how they did their storyboarding.
Interesting. Well, you say storyboarding. I wonder if they did like a form of like, yeah, that's interesting. I'm really gonna have to go look, because it sounds like based on what you're saying that maybe they did some like almost motion capture and then animated it based on that, or like, I don't know.
I would look to not to get off track too much, but if anybody's seen like the Lego movies that came out, starting with like the Lego movie that had Chris Pratt as the main voice there, they do that where it's obviously they have to lean on some technology, but when you zoom in, you can see like the little imperfections on the plastic. And same thing with this series. Like there were times where I saw like lint and stuff like that on the whites of M.O.D.O.K's eyes, but it just kind of like endears you to the show and really does give you that feel of like the classic, like you're almost playing with toys, playing with your action figures. And even with the character designs, like the opening sequence with Iron Man that you mentioned, like the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are in that classic like blue and white getup that we've never seen in the films or anything like that. So it's great.
Yeah, and oh gosh, the Super Adaptoid which I only know from the video game, but I know that in the video game, he's like this very in the Avengers video game that came out recently, he's this very imposing figure that you have to be like, oh, it's the Super Adaptoid. He was so funny in this. They call him the Smoothie Machine. Yeah. Are you calling me the Smoothie Machine? I am the Super Adaptoid.
Yeah. He's at the front runner for one of my favorite characters. It's either him or Gary at this point, I would say, are probably my favorite characters.
What other lines did Gary have? I only caught Gary's name when he did the thing about the guy's soul. It's okay. Oh, yeah. Sure, he says
we can inhabit his body, but not his soul.
his soul belongs to God.
To God.
Sure, yeah. Gary.
Well, he was the one that got his arm blasted off when he went for the coffee.
Oh, okay, I didn't know it was the same one.
I thought this was for everybody.
I love that because they've removed an arm, which makes Gary noticeable as Gary. So if they continue to have that character throughout the series, like, I'm assuming Gary will be noticeable because he's the AIM agent with one arm, the beekeeper with one arm or whatever. That's super fun. I love that.
Yeah. And as we're kind of like talking about some of the characters, it is worth mentioning the voice cast. I mean, obviously, Patton Oswalt had a ton on his plate in terms of like just the amount of dialogue he's constantly firing off. And I was just super impressed, but the talent is all the way throughout. We mentioned Iron Man and that brief appearance in the opening sequence. That was actually John Hamm.
Yeah.
I felt like John Hamm was like doing his best like RDJ impression.
Yeah. But that's very John Hamm too. If anyone could take the mantle, like that's not a bad call. Like if they had to recast Iron Man, John Hamm is not a bad call at all.
Not at all.
Even in the MCU, like I could deal with a multiverse version of Iron Man or Tony Stark that is John Hamm coming through, and it was really good casting. I loved it. I want more. I wonder. I haven't heard anything. Do we know what other heroes are appearing and who they're played by? I don't really want to know it necessarily, but is that released?
I won't spoil anything for you. I do know one for sure that's supposed to have at least a cameo appearance.
So that is a thing that they're going to do throughout the series.
I believe so.
That's awesome.
They're really relishing living in that classic comic world as much as they're subverting it. They really are embracing it at the same time. But,
what's amazing about it being such a different world and than the MCU or even any of the other series, the Netflix series, whatever, and it being a comedy, is Iron Man is there. Iron Man is there. Like I always listen to when I listen to the DC on Screen guys, they're always talking about how like different levels of DC content will or won't allow. Like, oh, they can't use Batman in that series, so we'll keep using other characters that are kind of like Batman, and similarly, the MCU has that problem, but it's because the actors who play them aren't necessarily going to come show up on Runaways, right? But this being animated, and they still got John Hamm, which is freaking awesome, but Iron Man is there. They get to make an Iron Man boot joke, and
Not a joke, it went on for about 5 minutes.
That's true. I'm going to take this boot to she's about to announce that she's going to sleep on the couch so I can take Iron Man's boot to my marital bed. Yeah. What the?
He's like, do you think he has different ones for different seasons? Because this one smells like a fall potpourri. Like, oh God, it was so funny.
Man, really, really good.
Yeah. I did want to highlight some of the other cast members and characters, though. I, right off the bat, recognized his daughter Melissa is played by Melissa Fumero, who, if there's any Brooklyn Nine-Nine fans, she stars as Amy Santiago on that show. And yeah, I always wonder when they choose to like have a character have the same name as the voice actor. Is that it makes me wonder how much improvisation was going on, and did they do that to make it easier on just the creative process? Because it definitely seems like one of those shows they probably had, a rough structure planned out, but just looking at some of the other cast members, the guy that played Austin Vandersleet, who was the really douchey representative from Grumble, that's Beck Bennett, and he just nailed it. Like, as much as M.O.D.O.K is an unlikable character, putting him against someone like that makes him just that much more likable.
Yeah, it lets you root for him, even though I love that kind of character that, like, he doesn't even really do anything wrong. Like he's disrupting an evil organization and making them make a tablet. Like that's a good guy, really. But like just the fact that he like is so annoying makes you root for the villain. Basically, it's real funny.
When he's being attacked by Jody in the office, and she's like, you should probably get out of here. I'm not in control of my own body. He's like, no, you have worked too hard as a woman in the corporate environment to get this meeting. Tell me more.
So good. So good. The son was played by Ben Schwartz of Parks and Rec.
Correct.
John Ralphio.
Loved it.
And even the wife is Amy Garcia. For anyone that watches Lucifer, she's Ella Lopez, the crime, like the forensics person.
Oh, okay.
So she's recognizable too. I mean, I knew the voice was familiar, so I'm like, oh, that's okay. It's Lucifer. So,
right. The voice of the Adaptoid was familiar, but I couldn't place it.
John Daly.
John Daly. Oh, from the 9.
He was on
the guy who wore the little shorts on that show about the police, right? That's John Daly.
No.
Thomas.
That's Tom Holland. Not Tom Holland.
Tom Holland.
Thomas Lennon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom Lennon. Okay.
John Daly was on. He was on the Kroll show. I know that.
Okay.
He's one of those guys where you hear his voice and then you see him and you're like, oh, okay, that's him.
Yeah. I don't think he's broken through quite as much as some other ones, but he's always been like a player on other people's shows and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Looking at his face, I know him. I just couldn't remember from what.
What did you guys think about like the violence? I mean, obviously the show is rated MA. I'm just coming off of Invincible, where we got a lot of feedback regarding the violence and whether it was gratuitous or not. But I love the way it was just played to comedic effect here.
I think it was too. I mean, it fit that. It wasn't quite the same as Invincible level because there's a difference, I think, between animated life. I mean, Invincible seemed to be, it was animated, but it seemed to be more almost life-like animation, where this is a little more cartoonish. Not that Invincible wasn't, if you know what I mean, the stop motion. So they made it, because I think when we were watching the scener, Catherine even mentioned there's blood splatter on the camera.
Yeah.
When you're seeing the show, and it's like, so it works, and it never really took me out of it. Sometimes in Invincible, it sort of took you out of it. This one is just like, because I think it was the comedic aspect of it.
For sure.
Yeah. I love the scene when the AIM employee like had disabled the like security sensor on the wall. Like let the bird go. It's like blood splatters all over his face.
And then the bunny later, and the same guy, not again.
Mr. Waffles. Yeah.
Oh, this is real good.
M.O.D.O.K will not leave without reparations. Your precious Mr. Waffles is now mine.
M.O.D.O.K said, what was the line? It was like, in whom is M.O.D.O.K? When he couldn't try to figure out whose body he was in.
Oh yeah, when he miniaturizes himself, that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
He's like, who am I in? Oh wait, that's not right. In whom is M.O.D.O.K? When they take the time to care enough about dialogue in something that's this, I mean, it's zany, it's off the wall. It makes you realize that there was a lot of. It's not just slapstick. There's thought put into it, so
absolutely,
I enjoyed that a lot.
Absolutely, the thing with the violence is like I'm trying to let go and let it not matter to me, like because violence does bother me in a lot of things, but I know this is being played for comedy effect. But I do have a little hard time, not just the violence, but also just like the gross things, like that experiment that they had, the dog.
Oh yeah.
That really gets to me. Like I don't like seeing dogs that look like they're hurting, like him scratching kill me, and like I just have to be like, it's animated. Just have fun.
Oh yeah, because then like Monica grabs him and just like throws him over her shoulder, and it just
Oh.
Yeah, that's worth mentioning. We did have Monica show up. She didn't play like a huge role, but I know we were kind of talking off air. For a lot of people, their main exposure to M.O.D.O.K before this series was the recent Avengers game, and Monica definitely showed up in that. So
yeah, big role in that.
Yeah, nice to get that kind of connectivity there. But it seems like she's definitely going to be a bit of a foil for M.O.D.O.K in this series. So.
Yeah.
He seems to have no lack of those, though, all around him.
Right. So they left this with him making a tablet for that guy. Right. Is he still working for that tech bro?
he got his employees' jobs back.
Right. That's what that was the deal he made. I'll give you your tablet, give them their jobs back. But they didn't say whether like, I guess I don't know if if that like fulfilled the contract, which I don't think is how it would work in the real world, or if like that guy is going to be an ongoing like bother and trying to bother him, like making him produce more things or whatever.
Yeah, I know Matthew Fox, the ethical panda, had mentioned in our live watch, he made comparisons to the Harley Quinn animated series, and no spoilers there, but it does have some similar themes in terms of it being kind of like a mundane workplace comedy in a lot of ways. And I do think that the series, this being the first episode, the amount of time that we spent focused on AIM and Austin and stuff like that, I think it's going to be a through line for the series going forward. Definitely coupled with the big fallout at the end of the episode we already talked about with Jody wanting a separation.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Like him not just being the family man, but being the like single dad. That's just a completely different dynamic, and it surprised me, and I was very thankful for it because I think that like needed to happen for the show to. I don't know. It's weird because for me to be interested, the show has to have some through line. Like, I'll still watch it on occasion and be like, ha 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 ha, and I shouldn't undercut that. Like, I will laugh hard and have a good time, but like for me to continue watching it and like care about the series, it has to have a through line like that. And I'm really glad they're getting a divorce, is what I'm saying.
Or at least there's the option of it being there. You know,
true.
There's consequences, though.
Yeah, there's consequences to his actions. That's what's important to me.
Agreed. Do you guys have any predictions? Do you think he's going to be on his own, or do you think he's going to get a roommate? Do you have any top contenders for like B Marvel characters that would make a good roommate for M.O.D.O.K?
Oh, I got one right here because we've already like haven't talked about it yet, but we got my guy who had the best cameo ever, Mr. Fin Fang Foom, with his Fin Fang farm to table restaurant. It was only like a 2-second little bit, but when I saw him 3 a.m, I screamed. I'm like, yes, Fin Fang Foom is in the show.
So good.
That would be a great. I would love to see him and him move in with Fin Fang Foom and have a little like odd couple type of situation with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be super cool.
He could live above the restaurant, you know, like have a little apartment above the Fin Fang farm to table. I have a feeling we're gonna just get like the classic, you know, single dad like divorcee storyline of just like him trying to make it in the world on his own, and like having a hard time doing that. Juxtaposed against him still trying to like find value in his work, which in the fact that work is like wanting to kill Iron Man is pretty great.
when you just mentioned that, in my head literally popped up like an 80s montage opening theme to a TV show where he's trying to juxtapose the two, and there's like some catchy little theme song going on, and it's him like trying to like make dinner and feed the kids at the same time, and nothing's going right for him, and he just seems like
yeah, it's like, and that's very funny, especially like if he's used to her taking care of the house, like him going to work to fight the Avengers, and that's the easy part of his day, you know what I mean? And then he comes home and has to like whatever, they're not young enough to change diapers, but like, you know, deal with moody teens and stuff. Like that's a very funny setup. I love it.
Well, we still got the whole bar mitzvah outfit storyline that I'm sure will probably be a running gag for a while with Lou, the son, where he hasn't found anything to wear to his bar mitzvah yet.
Yeah. Obviously they introduced the family right out the gate, so they're going to be major players. But I do kind of wonder: is he going to be trying to win them back? Or is he going to be, are we going to see like M.O.D.O.K try to date and move on? Because he also seems like the kind of character that would try to like, in his own machinations, he thinks the way to win Jody back is like make her jealous. Are we going to get that, you know?
I absolutely think there will be times where he tries to like do things like that, like exactly what you're talking about. But I think I have a feeling the arc of the series will be him learning the value of his family and like getting and learning some humility and not taking his own stuff as more important than his family. You know, I think that's what the arc will be. I hope anyway. I think that sounds That sounds fun. Or it sounds both fun, and it sounds like it could like make me cry, which is my favorite shit. When I'm like laughing, and then suddenly it like turns on a dime. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I care about M.O.D.O.K this much.
And that's another credit to the animators. I mean, as simplistic as the designs are, they do a great job. With the facial animations, especially on M.O.D.O.K, there's so much detail, and I love the fact that compared to the other characters, like you can actually see like the individual pieces of like what makes up his face. Like he has that line on his cheekbones that like you can see how much his mouth has to move. That they have to be two separate parts. Mandible has been one of my go-to words here lately, but yeah, the mandibles are getting a lot of action there.
I love that show, Mandalorian.
Mandalorian. This isn't quite this. I mean, it's like this, but a little bit more comedic. It has almost the same design of it. So
yeah,
did you buy that off Craigslist?
Yeah, I got stuff because they all spat on it before I picked it up. I hated it so much. What's funny is the Fin Fang Foom and the M.O.D.O.K were not just put here for the use on this thing. These guys are always within arm reach on my my desk. So if we get a Mojo showing up in this episode, then I'll have the Triumphant just sitting right here.
That could be a roommate option. That could be a roommate option. A Mojo.
Mojo, M.O.D.O.K, and Fin. Oh my god.
Dude, this is a show tailor-made for you, BVK. I love it.
I think so. So far, I mean, and plus it's good. So,
yeah, I'm digging it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was just the first episode out of the gate, and it was a relatively short episode, so there's no reason for us to spend too much time on it. But one other thing that I wanted to bring up in terms of just like laugh out loud moments was Cheddar Daddy.
Oh yeah,
it's a thing.
Not trying to make that a thing.
Do you guys have other standout moments you wanna bring up?
I love one of the first Iron Man lines when he's apparently watching the British Bake Off in his helmet, and he's like, that concept is just funny. He's like, "Are you watching the British Bake Off in your helmet?" No, I'm not binging it. I'm
savoring it.
No more than 2 episodes a day, maybe 3.
And then he heard when M.O.D.O.K gets like blasted out of the sky, you could hear him yell who the winner was of that season.
Yeah,
so he like totally spoiled it for him. So I'm assuming I never watched the show, but he yelled some name. He's like, Ben something won. So
that's great. That's great. I liked Boot Envy a lot. Then he was mad at Monica. Monica's mad at him. It's like, I see what this is. This is Boot Envy.
There was just so much funny. I mean, there was a few of the ones we already mentioned, the laugh out loud moments. I liked the one when they were intercutting when they're at the house brainstorming, and what the guy's name from Grumble came and talked to him, and in the background, Austin, you could see Lou with the other AIM agents. He's sort of like parading around in one of his outfits, like he's doing it's almost like a conga line or something, because he's finally found the fabric that he could make his bar mitzvah outfit out of. Just little things of detail in the background made me laugh too.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's great. That's wonderful. Probably one of my favorite lines from the whole thing is like, M.O.D.O.K will fix this. M.O.D.O.K will save you all. We're under attack. Die for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess 1 down, 9 to go. I'm actually excited to watch the. This is one of those shows that I'm sort of glad is available all at once, so you could go in. You don't have to wait for it. You could watch it on your own time. So I think I might actually, when I get some free time this weekend, catch 2, 3, 4, maybe. I always say that I'll watch 2 episodes. The next thing you know, it's like, here's another show you watch because you just ran through the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah. Well, BVK, I know you were kind of keeping an eye on the stream there as far as feedback goes. Did we get any interesting things happening in that regard?
We got some over on YouTube. Drew Gretsch says, really loved the first 3 episodes. So he watched more than just what we were talking about. M.O.D.O.K. It's a fun show that reminds him of Deadpool. It's the most Marvel and least Marvel thing they've ever done, and he loves the animation, and he hopes the show goes on for a few years, which I can see them maybe doing this as since it's such a standalone thing. Like we did mention at the beginning when they opened the credits of the show, it just said Marvel. It didn't say Marvel Studios, so we know that it's not in the MCU proper, but not that anyone really thought it was going to be, but it's still, I mean, just because it's not part of the MCU doesn't mean that it's not going to be any good.
Oh yeah.
It's we got, I think it was from Drew as well in that case too, but we got some similar feedback on Invincible. And in the case of Invincible, it's like the comic has already run its course, so we know that there's like a set story there. And we I think we kind of said there that we appreciate when a show knows when to stop. So rather than just trying to milk it. So in that regard, as long as they continue to have like compelling stories and they can balance the comedy with the funny action and the heartfelt through lines, like, yeah, keep it going as long as possible, but don't let it sacrifice the quality. I don't want it to be, it doesn't need to be the flagship show for Hulu or anything like that. I hope it's successful, but yeah.
Exactly. So then over on the Twitch stream, we had already mentioned that Matthew Fox said it reminded him a lot of the Harley Quinn TV show. Same mix of mundane office antics at a supervillain HQ, ridiculously over-the-top violence, and bouncing between an actual story and straight-up gags and skits. So if you find that good balance and it works, Harley Quinn's a good example too that does that a lot, where it's the main overarching storyline and then just a whole bunch of ridiculousness that cuts in between it. Because even with this show, there's a lot of laughs, but there's a lot of it gets serious at sometimes too.
Right, and that show's on its third season, right?
Third season will be coming up soon. I think they've done 2. Also on the chat, Catherine Ray, when we were talking about Iron Man, said that she didn't think that John Hamm was actually trying to do an RGA impression, which I was happy to have some differentiation in the character.
Interesting.
And she also loved all the violence, bring on the ketchup blood.
I thought I caught a little bit of an inflection that was trying to sound like RDJ, but maybe that was just me. Maybe it's my bias.
Even like with the recent stuff on Disney Plus or Disney XD with the Spider-Man show and the Avengers show that was on, the character of Iron Man, or actually Tony Stark, always has a little bit of that RDJ, but there's enough to it to where you can tell that it's an influence, but not a straight up mimic of it.
Yeah, that's how I felt about the John Hamm. Like he was a fast talking jokester.
Yeah,
but I feel like that's about as far as it felt like RDJ to me. Like he felt like John Hamm, but trying to play that I'm too smart for the room, fast talking guy. But that is very much. I don't know how much that is Tony Stark from comics, or how much that is RDJ having taken over the role for so long, and it being the only one we all know now. That is Iron Man to us.
Exactly. Yeah. We got one more in the chat, and it's Matthew Fox again. This is dealing with Austin. I feel like Austin feels more evil because he actually exists. None of us have to deal with hover chair laser head people, but the tech bro asshole who can't stop talking about annoying stuff and who represents the tech companies that can feel so invasive, he's totally someone we can hate.
Yeah. Well, it's also the banality of evil. Like he doesn't care about, or he's like indifferent to evil. He even says at one point, just make me this tablet, kill all the Iron Mans in your spare time you want to, but I need this tablet. Like, so he doesn't care about the evil he's bringing on the world or funding. He's just like, let's do this. So that in that respect, he was pretty evil. But instead of like wanting to be evil, he's just like a lot more realistic evil, which is like just disregarding how your actions affect others.
Right, and he does have a sort of vibe we were talking about. I can't remember what his name was, the guy that was in charge of Hulu on Silicon Valley.
Gavin Belson.
Belson. It has that same kind of vibe, but I mean, Gavin Belson was even more of an asshole. At least Austin here has a front of him being like the cool dude guy, but it has that same type of inflection of character.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, I think that'll probably do it for the discussion on M.O.D.O.K here, but as I've stated, definitely excited to see some more and have more discussions on that, and hopefully you guys can participate in those. I know Jeff's excited to hop on, and definitely looking forward to having Zuhair back on the conversation. But just one of the housekeeping things here, I definitely appreciate all the support we've gotten as a new show. Thank you guys for all the 5-star reviews that we've gotten. We did have our contest that we were doing in partnership with our network here, and they actually announced the winner on a stream earlier this week, and that person was KL Bucks. So, Matt, at this point in time, you have not heard from them yet, correct?
They They may have, but I haven't seen it yet. So if you have not contacted us yet, shoot us a message at mcucast.com would be the easiest way for me to hopefully see it. I'm a little behind on the shirts. The free shirts, I tend to batch them and send them all at once. And because we had some other merch issues this earlier this season, I've got a lot to send, and I'm going to start sending them today. I'm going to send at least one today because one person has told me their child is waiting on the shirt, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm a bad podcaster.
You are a mental organism designed only for casting.
That's true. Only for casting. This merch thing is not my deal. Designed only for casting.
Yeah. Well, for the Animation Deliberation Podcast, if you want to send us feedback, the best place to do that is animationdeliberationpodcast@gmail.com. And, that t-shirt contest we were doing is one of the benefits of being a part of this network, and having these two great guys on to have this conversation is another benefit of that. So go to strandedpanda.com for all the wonderful things we're doing there. The Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, the Star Wars Universe podcast, which we are partnering with concurrently here to do coverage on the Bad Batch. So continue to look forward to that on Friday mornings. 9 a.m. Central is going to be the usual time for that. And Brian, anything that you want to plug on your end?
Not really. I just, if you want to chat, I'm on the Stranded Panda chat a lot as a mod there, so I just come over and look for me there. Like we mentioned on the last pod and even here, I don't have my own show, but I'm guesting on almost every other one. And I know that with Jay Scotty and Zuhair, we've talked about, I'll be on some of the upcoming animation deliberations, and we got some stuff with the Loki show that I'll be involved with. So if you see me, I'm happy to chat about everything all the time. So that's about it.
And Matt, not to lead the witness too much here, but you were telling me you just completed an album.
Oh, yes. I do music. And lately I have been doing music under the moniker The Garage. And it's I have Marvel related songs and Star Wars related songs and Star Trek. I actually just finished a Star Trek double album, which I also have MCU cast Stranded Panda related songs with Steampunk Douchebag about Jeff Randall. But if you like that kind of thing, check out The Garage on Spotify and everywhere you get music. But yes, I finished one today. And I'm very excited to get it out, but it won't be out for 2 months probably, because it's got to go through the process of getting uploaded, and I'm printing CDs so that the people who actually funded the thing can get them first before it drops online. And like BVK, so I planned on having this thing done in like May of last year, and it's really been hard. But the next project is my Black Widow album, which I'm hoping to have in time for Black Widow, but that's real soon, so we'll see how that happens. And putting two out that close together is stupid, but I just want to make it. I'm having fun.
You got to do it.
I got to say, it's the first time I mentioned this on any kind of cast, but that thing you did with the Picard, making a song every episode, that was just ridiculous. It was so cool.
Thank you, man.
As a former musician, knowing how hard the process is, just doing that week in and week out and having them be quality just off the first initial, it's almost like a demo take, was
exactly
awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. One of the most fulfilling things. I want to do it again with something Marvel related or something possibly, because I loved that, but I just haven't had, with all the family stuff I've had this year, I just haven't had time to keep up with what I wanted, but I loved it. Yeah, every week the episode would drop. I'd watch it at 2 a.m. I'd go to sleep for a few hours, wake up, and the next morning I would write the song, record the song, and hopefully by the end of the day have a video up online of me performing the song.
That's super cool.
With full band most of the time, which I was just it was super fun. And that is the album that I finished yesterday. So that's the one that's finally finished and full, because BBK mentioned, those were demos, and then I went on. Anyway, I'm talking too much. The Garage on Spotify, all those things. Dude. Yeah, very excited about it.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it too. So we will look forward to that.
Sweet.
I think that'll bring this episode of Animation Deliberation to a close. So on behalf of Zuhair, I will say, stay whelmed and stay tuned. That's TOONED. Thanks, guys.
Be excellent to each other.